Why is one belief away hypnosis more effective than other treatments and techniques out there? Well, here's why. Because first of all, when you are using something like cognitive behavioral therapy, which is pretty much positive thinking on steroids, then you are trying to get your client to analyze and use logic to look at situations differently and try to create a new thought pattern and feeling about it. Right? So if we look at the situation differently, we're going to feel differently about it. But how well does that work for you? When someone tells you, oh, just look at a situation differently, does that really make you feel any better? A lot of times it makes us feel more frustrated. We feel like we're being told we're wrong, or it feels like we're putting more pressure on ourselves, like it's our fault. Well, you're saying I'm doing this to myself, and it can create a lot of defensiveness. As soon as you start to get defensive in a therapist's office, that's another year. You got to be in therapy another year, right? The other problem with it is a lot of times in therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy or different types of therapy, they want you to go find all the worst things you've ever been through and then work through every one. Because the idea is that if you keep talking about these upsetting, painful situations, eventually they'll lose their power, their energy, right? So if you walk in a room and I go boo and you jump, and then you walk in the room and I go boo and you jump and then I go boo and then you're like, okay, and then I go boo and then you're like, all right, and then I go boo and then you're like, this is annoying now, right? That's the idea, that it loses the intensity. But if you got to keep talking about all these upsetting situations, I had a client say one time, she said, you know, I didn't want to do therapy. She says, I think about this stuff all day long and now I got to go talk with a stranger about it. That's frustrating. We don't want to have to dig up every bad thing that ever happened, and you don't need to. I found that if you go to the original event or situation and you resolve it there, it's like a domino effect. It kind of lightens all the other experiences that you might have had. Another problem is that a lot of therapists like to get out their whiteboard and they like to do family systems, and they like to show you how your grandfather and your grandmother and their relationship and your siblings and how everybody, it all relates together. Okay, great. Now you have new information and new awareness, but it's not changing how you feel. Right? Like, I know I shouldn't eat a Diet Coke and a candy bar, but that's what I want to do. I should eat the apple, but I want the Diet Coke and the candy bar, right? I don't, but but that's what we think, right? That's why willpower doesn't work very well, because we're constantly being told that we have to lean on our self-control in order to make these breakthroughs, and that doesn't work either. So that combination of having to focus on the stuff that's frustrating, being told that we have to use willpower. Some therapy, like the psychoanalysis, the old Freudian stuff where you just lay down on a couch and you just talk for an hour while the therapist sits there and goes, and plays crossword puzzles while you're free associating, hoping that eventually something will come out of your unconscious mind that'll be a revealing breakthrough for you, and it might take 10 years for that to happen. Well, we can just guide you to that in the first session. We can do that in 20 minutes. And that's why our program is so effective. We're not relying on your conscious mind. We're relying on the power of your unconscious mind. Your part of you that controls 80% of how you think, how you feel, how you behave, because it's what stores your beliefs and your habits. And if we can go right to the part of you that stores those beliefs and habits, and we upgrade the beliefs and we start to give you a new way to respond, we give you new resources in a state where you're more relaxed or you're more open to suggestion. So we're recreating a new emotional experience for you. We're upgrading the belief, and then we're anchoring in a new feeling of calm, and we're doing it all at the same time. And that's just the first session. Right? When you do something like that, people have these huge breakthroughs. They have this huge awakening. That's why we call session 1 the awakening, because they recognize that they don't have to carry around that stuff anymore. Or they bring up memories that they had not remembered. And there's ways of doing that to make sure that they are real memories. And again, you don't have to dig up terrible memories and then relive them. As soon as we understand why the belief was formed, we pause it right then and there, because it's not the experience, it's the belief that formed in your mind as a result of that experience that matters most. And if you find that belief and you upgrade it, that's where the breakthrough happens. So people have tried other ways. If therapy wasn't working, well, let's try EMDR, where you're moving your eyes around, right? Because the idea is that when you think, your eyes are moving, and you might make pictures, you might talk to yourself, you might hear things in your head, you might feel feelings. And so therapists learned that if you had people watch their finger or use a light these days, they have different ways of doing it now, that it would help you to recall those memories. But then you got to sit there and stare at somebody's finger, or you got to sit there and watch these annoying lights. And then again, it goes back to free association. What do you think is happening? Why do you think that is? And it's not very relaxing, and it's just the one technique. So if you want to come back, you just do the same exact thing over and over. That's why a lot of things like rapid transformation therapy, RTT, it's the same thing. You just keep doing the same thing over and over. Right? So our One Belief Away method, we have different techniques and different skills and different journeys that we take people on every single session. It's new and different and empowering. So tapping is another one, emotional freedom technique. They believe that we have these energy meridians in our body that come from Eastern medicine. And so if you tap on these and tell yourself, even though I have this fear, I fully love and accept myself, which is great. There's wonderful components. Loving yourself is the antidote for fear. Being loving and accepting and reassuring and knowing that you can make yourself feel safe internally instead of looking for outside stimuli or people to make you feel safe, that's very empowering. And the tapping can be a great distraction. It might be your meridian points, but it's probably more of a distraction, like what NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, would call a pattern interrupt while you're saying something new. And so you're just scrambling the old pattern and installing the new pattern. So all of these techniques are fascinating, and people are like, well, what about NLP? Because usually hypnotherapy and neurolinguistic programming go hand in hand. What's NLP? It's really the study of what works, right? It's the study of how we create our reality in our own mind. And when you understand that, then you can use all kinds of different techniques to be able to help upgrade what's going on in your mind, the reality that's happening in your head. And they always say it's not what you experience, it's what you tell yourself that you're experiencing that influences how you think, feel, and behave. And so it's the story that you're telling yourself, how you're narrating your life, that's the real power. Okay, but what's driving the story? Everybody focuses on changing the story. I focused on what's behind the story, what's driving the story. And that's how my method, we're like belief hunters. If you take any feeling or any habit or any behavior that you want to change, you can follow it back to a belief that ended up causing you to behave in a certain way, and now you've done that so many times that it's become automated. Now your brain just kind of has this groove like a record player, and now it's just playing that groove. And so we can go in there and we can upgrade the record that's playing in your head by upgrading the beliefs. But that again is just session 1. In session 2, we got to free you from the emotional energy, right? We call it the releasing. And so that is a way of gently releasing ourselves from the feelings of anger, self-pity, self-righteousness, holding grudges, all those emotions that are like poison in our system. When we go through a traumatic event, it's kind of like getting bit by a rattlesnake, and that bite hurts really bad, but the bite isn't what gets you. It's the venom that's left inside. The venom, the poison, is what paralyzes us. Well, when we go through a traumatic experience, the venom is the belief. And a lot of times we don't know how to get rid of that belief, or we defend our belief because if I get rid of this belief, I'm going to get hurt again. No, you're keeping the pain alive and you don't realize it. We got to get the poison out. That's like saying, I got to keep the poison in here. It's keeping me safe. What? No, right? We got to get the poison out. So that's the second session. In the third session, we're building up resources, giving you new tools and strategies so that you show up as you 2.0, an empowered version of you. So the other techniques, it takes a long time for all of this to happen, where our OBA method happens very quickly. Most people are going through a 30-day breakthrough, a 4-session program once a week for 4 weeks and having life-changing results. This is a lot of why our program is different than so many of the other programs out there and why our results are so impressive. If you're interested in this, click the link below, schedule a discovery call, and let's talk and see if this training is a good fit for you.